Hello and welcome to our today's lesson. We are going to look at human growth and development according to Jean Piaget's theory and stages of cognitive development. So, number one, we are going to look at the stages of development. Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development suggests that children move through four different stages of development which reflect the increasing sophistication of children's thought. Each child goes through the stages in the same order, but not all at the same rate, and child development is determined by the biological maturation and interaction with the environment. At each stage of development, the child's thinking is qualitatively different from the other stages. Stages of development, we have one sensomotor stage that starts from 18 months to 24. From We have the sensomotor stage that starts from birth to 18 or 24 months. Two, we have pre-operation stage that starts from 2 years to 7 years. Number three, we have the concrete operation stage that starts from 7 years to 11 years. And the formal operation stage that starts from 12 years to adulthood. Piaget's four stages of cognitive development, although no stage can be missed out, there are the individual differences in the rate at which children progress through stages, and some individuals may never attain the later stages. Piaget did not claim that a particular stage was reached at a certain age, although descriptions of the same stage is often include an indication of the age at which an average child will reach each stage. We are going to look at stage number one, which is the sensomotor stage that starts from birth to 2 years. The first stage is the sensomotor, and during this stage, the infant focuses on the physical sensation and on learning to coordinate their body. The major characteristics and developmental changes are the infant learns about the world through their senses and through their actions, like moving around and exploring the environment. During the sensomotor stage, a range of cognitive abilities develop. These include object permanency, self-recognition, where the child realizes that the other people are separate from them. Here we have a picture of a child whose age is between 0 to 2 years, and she is still in the sensomotor stage. During the beginning of this stage, the infant lives in the present. It does not yet have a mental picture of the world stored in its memory. Therefore, it does not have a sense of object performance. If it cannot see something, then it does not exist. This is why you can hide a toy from an infant while it watches, but it will not search for the object once it has gone out of sight. The main achievement during this stage is object performance. Knowing that an object still exists even if it is hidden, it requires the ability to form a mental representation, that is, a schema of the object. Individual differences include: one, cultural practices, where in some cultures babies are carried on their mothers' backs throughout the day. This constant physical contact and varied stimuli can influence how a child perceives their environment and their sense of object performance. Number two, we have gender norms, where toys are assigned to babies that can differ based on the gender expectation, where a boy might be given more cars or action figures while a girl might receive dolls or kitchen set. Number two, we are going to pre-operation stage that starts from 2 years to 7 years. The Piaget second stage of intellectual development is the pre-operation stage. It takes place between 2 years and 7. At the beginning of this stage, the child does not use operation, so the thinking is influenced by the way things appear rather than the logical reasoning. We have a picture here of a kid of around 2 to 7 years, and the major characteristic and developmental changes are: 1. Toddlers and young children acquire the ability to internally represent the world through language and mental imagery. During this stage, young children can think about things symbolically. This is the ability to make one thing, such as a word or an object, stand for something other than itself. A child's thinking is dominated by how the world looks, not how the world is. It's not yet capable of logical or problem-solving type of thought. Moreover, the child has difficulty with class inclusion. He can classify objects but cannot include objects in the subset, which include classifying objects as belonging to two or more categories simultaneously. Infants at this stage also demonstrate animism. This is the tendency of the child to think that non-living objects such as toys have life and feelings like a person. Individual difference within this stage is cultural storytelling, where different cultures have unique stories, myths, and folklore. Children from diverse backgrounds might understand and interpret symbolic elements differently based on their cultural narrative. Number two, we have race and representation, where a child's racial identity can influence how they engage in pretend play. For instance, a lack of diverse representation in media and toys might lead children to color to recreate scenarios that don't reflect their experience or background. Number three, we are going to look at the concrete operation stage that starts from 7 years to 11. By the beginning of the concrete operation stage, the child can use operations, that is a set of logical rules, so she can conserve quantities. She realizes that people see the world in a different way than he does, that is decentering, and he has improved inclusion tasks. Children still have difficulty with abstract reasoning. We have here a picture of the concrete operation stage of a child from 7 to 11 years. The major characteristics and developmental changes are: during this stage, children begin to think logically about concrete events. Children begin to understand the concept of conservation and understanding that although things may change in appearance, certain properties remain the same. During this stage, children can mentally reverse things, e.g., picture a ball plasticity returning to its original shape. During this stage, children also become less egocentric and begin to think about how other people might think and feel. The stage is called concrete because children can think logically much more successfully if they can manipulate real concrete materials or pictures of them. Piaget considered the concrete stage a major turning point in the child's cognitive development because it marks the beginning of logical or operational thought. This means physically this means the child can work things out internally in the head rather than physically try things out in the real world. Children can conserve number age 6 months, age 7, and weight 9. Conservation is the understanding that something stays in the same quantity even though its appearance changes. But operation thought is only effective here if the child is asked to reason about materials that are physically present. Children at this stage will tend to make mistakes or be overwhelmed when asked to reason about abstract or hypothetical problems. You have the formal operation stage that starts from 12 years and over. The formal operation period begins at about age 11. As adolescents enter this stage, they begin the ability to think in an abstract manner, the ability to combine and classify items in a more sophisticated way. Oh, sorry. And the capacity for higher order reasoning. You have a picture here of the adolescent kids. And here adolescents can think systematically and reason about what might be as well as what is. Not everyone achieves this age. This allows them to understand politics, ethics, science, friction, as well as engage in a scientific reasoning. Adolescents can deal with abstract ideas, e.g., they can understand division and fractions without having to actually divide them up and solve hypothetical or imaginary problems. So we are going to look at the major characteristics and developmental changes. One, we have the concrete operations are carried out on things, whereas formal operations are carried out in ideas. The formal operations dot is entirely freed from physical and perceptual constraints. During this stage, adolescents can deal with abstract ideas like no longer needing to think about slicing up cakes or sharing sweets to understand and divisions and fractions. They can follow the form of an argument without having to think in terms of specific examples. From about 12 years, children can follow the form of a logical argument without reference to its current. During this time, people develop the ability to think about abstract concepts and logically test hypotheses. This stage sees the emergence of scientific thinking, formulating abstract theories and hypotheses when faced with a problem. Individual differences. We have one, culture and abstract thinking. Culture emphasizes different kinds of logic or abstract thinking. For example, in societies with a strong oral tradition, the ability to hold complex narratives might develop prominently. Number two, gender and ethics. Discussion about morality and ethics can be influenced by gender norms. For instance, in some cultures, girls might be encouraged to prioritize community harmony, while boys might be encouraged to prioritize individual rights. And that is the end of our presentation today. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.